Doctor Who Series 12 is still fresh in our minds, not necessarily in some happy, nostalgic way, but more of a where on earth do we go from here way. Series 12 did a lot to Doctor Who lore, not all of it good. The Timeless Children fundamentally changed the entire lore of Gallifrey and of the character we know as the Doctor. So old Chibbers has a ton on his plate when it comes to season 13. We have Revolution of the Daleks to get through first, but I'm almost certain none of the baggage we've picked up in the last series will carry on to this. They're just going to skip it and worry about it in season 13. Some are citing the decline of 1989 rearing its head once again, and there is evidence to prove that's not exactly a dumb correlation, but the show isn't completely dead yet. We are hoping that all the questions and concerns raised over the last two series can be dealt with in due course, putting the show back on its once untouchable pedestal, though I'm not convinced it's really fallen from grace as horrifically as some might say. Yes, liking the show does make me a real Who fan. Those of you who are watching this video hoping for some justification on your shitty opinions, please go elsewhere. Bye-bye. But I'm not going to stick my fingers in my ears and say the show is fine. It's not. There's a lot to talk about. I'm Rich, your go-to for Doctor Who from WhatCulture.com, and these are 5 reasons Doctor Who is in serious trouble. Number 5. There are too many loose ends, again. Something old Chibbers was disgustingly guilty of last series was opening a can of worms, then either pretending he never opened the worms or just shoved them up his arse. Yaz being a police officer and taking no authoritative stance. The water in the Ghost Monument being super deadly but proving no threat at all. The Doctor falling to the ground every 3 minutes in, the Saranga conundrum, but it having no detriment to the plot of the episode. Thankfully, Chibnall avoided these things throughout Series 12, right up until the very end when he kicked down the dam and we were all flooded with a sea of questions. So the Doctor is the Timeless Child, but how did it all begin? Who is the fugitive Doctor and where does she fit in? How many lives did the Doctor have before Hartnell? Why did the Doctor need regenerations granting at the time of the Doctor if they could just regenerate indefinitely? Well, actually that one could be answered if Tecteun also limited the Doctor's regenerations like she did for the other Time Lords, but that's also part of the question pool as well. Why did the Doctor start again with William Hartnell? Where does Sacha Dhawan's master fit into the chronology of the character? And these are things only raised from this series. There are questions going back the whole way through Doctor Who lore that need to be answered after these big revelations. Echoing the unfired guns of Series 11, I'm concerned that these things Chibnall will just ignore, or at least give a flimsy answer none of us would like. Either that, or he attempts the biggest and subsequently dumbest rug pull in TV history, saying the Master had lied about it all, or the Timeless Child as him, which would actually make it a bit more interesting, or it was all a dream, or something. Chibnall might indeed have bitten off a lot more than he can chew with this. As a Doctor Who fan himself, he would be asking these same questions if he wasn't the showrunner, and was instead just watching it as a viewer, as a fan. But since he is the king of the castle, he'd better be thinking about the questions his subjects would indeed be asking. Number 4. The lore is a mess. Following on from the whole Timeless Child revelation, as said, the near 60-year history of the show is in a bit of a pickle right now. Though, as I've mentioned countless times, these events haven't completely tainted the run of the show. Has this news of the Doctor's past changed the relationship between Ten and Rose? No. Does this revelation negate the iconic speech the Doctor delivered to Susan in the Dalek invasion of Earth? No. Does it wipe every appearance of the Weeping Angels post-Blink from existence? Unfortunately, no. Though I wish it did. Nothing after Blink ever happened, okay? They never needed to come back, Moffat. Never. Though you do see things differently when going back. Matt Smith is an old man, dying, no more regenerations. Of course, the specifics of Tecteun also limiting her child's regenerations is up in the air, but of course we knew he'd be fine. Russell T Davies' era of grief towards the Doctor losing his planet and people. All of it overreacting. They were a bunch of wankers. You should be happy they're dead, I think. Remember when you first flicked on your television set in the 60s to see the first Doctor go about his doddery adventures? Sure, but he wasn't actually the first, something we thought was true for over half a century. As said, he's bitten off way more than he can chew, and Christ, are we needing answers for everything? I criticised exposition a lot in the last series, but if we had an episode of purely monologues and explanations for everything we have questions for, it wouldn't be getting any downs. Provided the questions were answered nicely and well, of course. Number 3, there's little reason for lost viewers to return. Doctor Who Series 11 was a great jumping on point for the series. No, it's not the best series or even a good series, but it didn't unload all the Who baggage we superfans were already used to. Series 12, however, did. Those who boarded the TARDIS hype train back in 2018 had a nice little standalone time with the crew, but now the floodgates are open and the lore is crashing back in. They have been thoroughly thrown into the deep end. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with bringing old characters and foes back. It's a recurring thing in the show. You can't just not bring the classics back. However, it now feels like you need to go into Series 13 with an extensive knowledge of the show to understand the events of the series as the Doctor uncovers more of her past and we get a larger picture of the character's life, and also how the history of Gallifrey we know of with Rassilon, etc, 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 is affected too. Or, on the flip side to that, we could also get another 10 episodes of just gallivanting around without a care in the world, like none of this ever happened. The first episode might open with the Doctor monologuing about not caring about who she once was and only cares about who she is now. Either the old guard viewers still standing by the show through thick and thin, its ups and downs, hey, will be left in the dark, or the new viewers oblivious to the lore will be massively out of their depth. It's a balancing act I'm not sure Chibnall will get right. Keep people in who are new, but also keep those who want the answers satisfied. They're like two huge differences. Will the viewers of Series 12 suddenly bogged down by 60 years of lore even come back at all? I think he's written himself into a corner here. Whoops. Number 2. It's not exactly a show you can reboot. Doctor Who is unique in a longevity sense. Though a television show could continue by just replacing all the cast in the same circumstances, Who is unique that the titular character is the same person we first met back in 1963. There is of course one big problem with that. Nothing can be forgotten now. Whatever happens, it's lore. End of story. Yes, it's not great what we got to bookend Series 12, but it happened. Deal with it. Oh, it sounds like a fan fiction. Sorry. It's not. You didn't like Harry Potter and the Cursed Child? Tough. It's canon. It's also the best thing I've ever seen on stage, and I have seen a lot on stage. It's really good. Anyway, there's no easy way for the show to worm its way out of this narrative corner, though it's not exactly trapped in like a really narrow space. If anything, it's blown the show wide open, but that's also the problem. If this all goes tits up, which let's face it, we think it will, they can't just reboot it and pretend it didn't happen. Smaller things in Who canon have been ignored, like the passing comment in the Doctor Who movie about the Doctor being half human. Yeah, that's a bit weird that's literally never been mentioned again. The only way they could pretend it never happened canonically is by literally pretending none of it happened. As said, the Master could be lying, or it was all a dream, or they could literally never bring it up again. As said, they could just gallivant along like nothing had happened. Maybe Rose Tyler shows up again. There were rumours of her being in the Timeless Children, and she just like reboots the events of the series as the bad wolf we saw in the 50th anniversary. It's a weird one. I'm not sure how in the hell Chibnall's actually getting out of this one. There's a big hole you dug, Chris. Do you want a ladder? And number 1, the ratings aren't great. The final and most important part to this declining puzzle is the ratings. It's been a steady downhill since the series opener, Spyfall, which is odd since this series was overall pretty solid, especially compared to Series 11. Between episodes 1 and 10, the viewership dropped by over 2 million. That is nuts. Comparatively, the ratings for season 26, the last classic Who season with Sylvester McCoy before the hiatus, had about the same numbers back in 1989. What happened back then? Well, the show was cancelled. Oof. So will Doctor Who be canned by the BBC? I don't think so, no. Not yet, anyway. The BBC seem happy with it at the moment, which wasn't the case when the show was cancelled back in '89. They disliked it so much, Colin Baker was binned. He didn't leave, he was fired, basically. The critic/audience divide is very much present here too. I mean, look at what I'm saying versus what a handful of YouTube commenters say. I'm not saying I'm a critic, I'm just an idiot on the internet, but apparently not whinging about the PC social justice warrior nature of the show is wrong. Ridiculous. But yeah, the ratings are dropping quite significantly, unfortunately. Will the BBC can the show? No, not just yet. Revolution of the Daleks is apparently at Christmas, apparently confirmed now, exciting, and being in a primetime slot on Christmas Day also guarantees viewers, right? But if people go out of their way not to tune in, that's not going to look good on the BBC. Even worse, if the ratings for Series 13 start at what Series 12 ended on, then go down another 2 million by the finale, There is a lot of work to be done both on screen and off. It is going to be a tough year for the show. Could Chibnall be out already? If he were anytime soon, we'd know about it by now. That gap between Christmas and the airing of Series 13, that's when you need to keep your ear to the ground as to whether Jodie will stay for Series 14, Chibnall, Yaz, or anyone. Ooh. So yeah, they are the things that are putting Doctor Who in trouble, but what do you think? Is there something plaguing the show that I've not said? Or are you just going to detain any intellectual argument and just say it's a PC, woke, BBC, social justice warrior kind of stuff? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe to What Culture here on YouTube if you have not already, and you can follow me on Twitter at PickupChangeToe. Thank you very much for watching, take care of yourselves, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.